Hello, hello. Going to be doing SCP-035 first today. Hello. I am Rex. I am Rex. I am. I am Rex Tictoni. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hi, Eleanor. Okay. Item number SCP-035. Object Class Geeter. He's always sleepy. Special containment procedures. 035 is to be kept within a hermetically sealed glass case, no fewer than 10 centimeters 4 inches thick. This case is to be contained within a steel, iron, and lead-shielded room at all times. Doors are to be triple locked at all times, with the exception of allowing personnel in or out. No fewer than two armed guards are to be posted at any time. Guards must remain outside at all times and are not allowed within the containment room under any circumstances. Hello? Hello? Trying to get the voice right. It feels like it's dropping a bit too low. A trained psychologist is to remain on site at all times. Research personnel are not to touch 035 at any time. 035 must be moved to a new sealed case every 2 weeks. The previous case must be disposed of via SCP-101, as it shows no adverse reactions to the 035's corruption. Anyone who comes into contact with 035 when it is in possession of a host is to be given an immediate psychological evaluation. Description: 035 appears to be a white porcelain comedy mask, although at times it will change to tragedy. In these events, all existing visual records such as photographs, video footage, and even illustrations of 035 automatically change to reflect its new appearance. A highly corrosive and degenerative viscous liquid constantly seeps from the eye and mouth holes of 035. Anything coming into contact with this substance slowly decays over a period of time, depending on the material, until it has decayed completely into a pool of the original containment. Glass seems to react the slowest to the effects of this item, hence the construction of choice of its immediate container. Living organisms that come into contact with the subject react much the same way, with no chance of recovery. Origin of the liquid is unknown. Liquid is only visible from the front and does not emerge or is even visible from the other side. Subjects within 1.5 to 2 meters, 5 to 6 feet of 035 or in visual contact with it experience a strong urge to put it on. When 035 is placed on the face of an individual, an alternate brainwave pattern from 035 overlaps that of the original host, effectively snuffing it out and causing brain death to the subject. Subject claims to be the consciousness contained within 035. The bodies of possessed subjects decay at a highly accelerated rate, eventually becoming little more than mummified corpses. Nevertheless, 035 has demonstrated the ability to remain in cognitive control of a body experiencing severe structural damage, even if the subject's body literally decays to the point where motion is not mechanically possible. No effect is to be found when placed on the face of an animal. Conversations with 035 have proven to be informative. Researchers have learned various details about other SCP objects and history in general, as 035 claims to have been at many momentous events. 035 displays a highly intelligent and charismatic personality, both being amiable and flattering to all those who speak to it. 039 has scored in the 99th percentile on all intelligence and aptitude tests administered to it and appears to have a photographic memory. However, psychological analysis has discovered 035 to possess a highly manipulative nature, capable of forcing sudden and profound changes to the interview's psychological state. 035 is proven to be highly sadistic, prompting some to commit suicide and transforming others into near mindless servants with linguistic persuasion alone. 037 has stated that it has intimate knowledge of the workings of a human mind and implied that it could change anyone's views if given enough time. Hey man, maybe if this mask was really smart, it'd know not murdering people and making them commit suicide would get them to like it a lot better and allow it to, leave containment, but I guess even something ranking in the 99th percentile of all intelligence is still a dumbass. Additional, SCP-035 was found sealed in a crypt in an abandoned house in Venice in 18 redacted. Addendum 3501. 035 has been found to be able to possess anything that has a humanoid shape, including mannequins, corpses, and statues. 035 has been able to motivate all into movement, removing the need to expose live subjects to 035. Still, anything it possesses inevitably decays into motionlessness. Addendum 035-2. 035 has facilitated an escape attempt consisting of several researchers' staff to aid it in its bid for freedom. Insurrection failed. All staff that have been in contact with 035 have been terminated, and mandatory psychiatric evaluations have been implemented for all personnel coming in contact with 035. Addendum 35-03. It has been determined that 035 is capable of telepathy, whether or not it possesses a host, even penetrating the subconscious of others and using the knowledge it finds to its advantage. Extreme caution is advised when choosing subjects to converse with 035. Addendum 04. 035 has expressed an interest in other SCPs, most notably 04715 and SCP-682, 682 being the unkillable lizard. And if I remember correctly, 4715 was originally redacted. Dr. Redacted has expressed worry that should 035 bond with either, their regenerative qualities would negate its corruption and give it a permanent host. 035-05. After several more escape attempts, and after reviewing 035's incident record, High Command has ordered that it be permanently sealed within the facility and prohibited from being allowed any more hosts. Several personnel have protested against this, with some even erupting into violence. As a direct result, all personnel that have come in contact with 035 have been terminated. Going forward, all personnel that deal with 035 are to be rotated frequently, and contact is to be limited even to its dormant state to as little as possible. Yeah, garbage trucks can be quite noisy. I'm sorry about that. Addendum 06. Personnel within 10 meters of 035 have recently reported feeling unease, stating that they can hear unintelligible whispering. Several others have suffered from severe migraines. Object has been monitored, but there is no change in its dormant behavior, and no sounds have been recorded. The motion to reinstate 035's host privileges has been brought up once more, if only on a temporary basis to discover these new changes in the object's behavior. Denied. Addendum 07. The walls of 035's containment cell have suddenly begun secreting a black substance. Tests on the substance have revealed it to be human blood, although highly contaminated with several foreign and unknown substances. Substances corrosive having a pH of 4.5 and prolonged exposure to the walls has proven detrimental to their structural integrity. More notably, it seems to be forming patterns on the walls. Several segments seem to be paragraphs in various languages, including Italian, Latin, Greek, and Sanskrit. Translation is pending. Other segments appear to be diagrams depicting ritualistic sacrifice and mutilation, often for the arcane benefit of the person committing them. Several staff members have been shocked to note that all sacrifices bear an uncanny resemblance to various personnel and their loved ones, often in conflicting positions. Researchers, while in the room examining these newly formed patterns, have complained of hearing loud whispering and high-pitched, unnerving laughter at irregular intervals. Personnel in the section working daily near and around 035's containment unit have suffered catastrophic morale damage, with an all-time high in suicide rates in staff in that area, whether or not they have ever had contact with 035. The only change in 035's dormant behavior is regarding its contained glass case. Degradation of the case has increased to a high degree, enough so that the glass will occasionally shatter, causing wide dispersal of 035's containment. This occurs quite often at the most inopportune times, so far researching in 6 casualties and 3 fatalities of both research and cleanup staff. Addendum 08. In the light of mass suicide and homicide of the members of the research team tasked with translating the passages garnered from 035's containment cell, the morale damage in the area, and general loss of staff dealing with 035, either to death or insanity, it has been decided to coat the inner and outer walls of its containment cell with SCP-148, which proved well in the containment of 132. See document 132-01, in order to hopefully block out the high negative levels of negativity being emitted from 035. I don't know if giving him a simple grumpy face would stop him. SCP-148 is a thaumaturgic metal, if I remember correctly, that stops a lot of psychic and anomalous effects from passing through it. It's a very useful metal. Addendum 09. The use of SCP-148 has worked well, causing morale and suicide rates to return to near pre-035 rates. However, the material appears to facilitate the negativity within the cell, causing a veritable greenhouse effect inside. Personnel inside the cell have stated that they feel a heavy sense of dread, fear, anger, and general depression, as well as hearing constant, near inaudible whispering upon immediate entry. A prolonged stay causes severe migraines, suicidal tendencies, heavy hemorrhaging of blood vessels around the eyes and inside the mouth and nose, general hostility towards others, and for the whispering to increase to almost deafening volumes, intersected by constant mocking laughter. Exposure of more than 3 hours inevitably results in the subject falling into a deep psychosis and attempting to either harm themselves or others. Most spoke in Latin or Greek, despite the fact that several did not previously know how to speak said languages beforehand. Shush, Melon. The presence of blood in both word and diagram formations has increased disproportionately, the walls becoming cluttered and the formations beginning to overlap each other. The substance has proven to be both difficult to clean and even more corrosive than was originally recorded, with a pH of roughly 2.4. Given general estimation of the current walls, a life of 2 months before they will need replacement. It's gradually becoming more and more difficult to contain 035, and the debate to reinstate its host privileges has once again come up. Denied. Addendum 10. The walls, ceiling, and floor of 035 containment seal have now been completely saturated in blood. All personnel entering and guarding the area must wear full hazmat protection suits. Constant cleaning efforts are being instated. Addendum 11. The magnitude, intensity, and reoccurrence of the phenomena that occur within 035 containment cell have increased to an alarming degree. The cell door has been known to become locked of its own accord, while personnel are inside and unable to be opened for a period of time. Appendages form out of the larger puddles of blood and often attempt to grab or harm personnel near them. Blurry apparitions have started appearing to staff. Electronic devices no longer work inside the cell, and the light cannot be turned on, though there is no physical reason why it does not work, forcing those enter to use non-electric based light sources. Cleaning measures have no discernible effect on the cell, and the walls are degrading at a very high rate, forcing them to be replaced within a week at best, although blood makes it nearly impossible to properly achieve this. 035 may have to be moved to a new cell entirely, with the old one sealed off and disengaged from the rest of the facility. 035's kind of a stupid cunt. It does get host privileges back, but it'd probably have a significant better time if it didn't keep trying to, have people kill themselves when it chatted with them and whatnot, Anyways. Item number SCP-036. Object class safe. Special containment procedures. Once every year, a mobile task force is dispatched from Containment Command 02 and expunged to Site 22A to defend the runway and airport located there. The civilian facility is to be cleared of all non-SCP personnel by 0400 hours of September 23rd, and none are allowed to return until sunrise the next day. On October 1st, all civilians must be evacuated again before sunrise, and will not be allowed on Site 22A until the return of the pilgrimage flight. Pilgrims in transit from the arrival flight awaiting departure on the pilgrim flight may only be cross-examined by researchers with level 3 security level clearance or higher. Description: SCP-036 includes the location Site 22A, a small airport in the Mosul region of northern Iraq, and Site 22B, the destination of passengers boarding Site 22A. The key components of 036 are the arrival flight, a passenger plane that varies in make and model from year to year that arrives shortly before dawn on September 23rd. It appears on radar about 30 to 40 kilometers away from Site 22A. When it lands, pilgrims exit the plane and enter the terminal. No crew has ever left the plane. Observations have only revealed a masked pilot and co-pilot. This plane leaves quickly after pilgrims exit and does not wait for clearance for takeoff, nor does it identify itself upon approach for landing. The pilgrims, people of the Yazidi faith that exit the arrival plane, who are said to be undergoing the Kiras Yohanin each year, are examined and identified as various people of the Yazidi faith that have died during the previous year. This is done through birth certificates, photo IDs, specific knowledgeable questions, and when possible, fingerprinting. Most have been known to be friendly and amicable, though most are reluctant to give details about the Kiras Yohan. In the past, all have shown to be unable to recognize family or friends, or been able to remember any information beyond what short-term memory would normally allow. In the late afternoon of September 23rd, most pilgrims begin to emphasize how important it is that their pilgrimage must begin. At that time, they file onto the pilgrimage plane and depart, never to be seen again. The pilgrimage flight, a passenger plane provided by SCP personnel for the transport of the pilgrims, is maintained by a crew of trained Yazidi holy men. The crew are typically never able to elaborate upon the details of the pilgrimage, or what the Kiras Gihon actually is. SCP equipment on board function optimally, but recorded data will only slightly increase our understanding of the pilgrimage each year. Though the flight is gone for 7 days, the crew and recorded data are only able to account for a few hours. Days are missing from time recording equipment and camera, though nothing abnormal is ever observed. The plane disappears from radar and visual contact is lost about 50 to 60 kilometers away from Site 22A until it returns about sunrise on October 1st. Don't have a good time, Melon. Don't let him cause you too much trouble. Site 22B, the destination of the pilgrimage plane, is a small airport consisting of a runway and single building located at coordinates expunged. It has only been observed by the pilgrimage crew and cameras on plane. It does not appear on satellite images, and attempts to reach it on foot have failed, once with disastrous results. Cameras have trouble focusing on the area as the heat from the ground usually causes a mirage-like visual effect on all objects more than a few dozen meters from the plane. A flyover with an SCP reconnaissance plane several weeks before the pilgrimage revealed undeveloped land and what looked like an ancient stone statue. In the 1990s, SCP Mobile Task Force Sigma-4 attempted to reach Site 22B during the time of the pilgrimage. On approach, communication was lost, and the task force was never heard from again. No other exploration attempts are advised during the 7-day pilgrimage. Originally, the Kurdish-speaking Yazidi people around Mosul secretly performed the pilgrimage themselves. Pilgrims from the east were escorted by masked, armed guards on camelback into the care of Yazidi holy men. It has been explained that the holy men would then take the pilgrims west to their land of the dead, where the pilgrims would wait to be reborn back into the Yazidi people. The Kiras Gihon, literally Kurdish for changing garments, is used to describe the belief of reincarnation that the lesser souls of Yazidi undergo. While the actual pilgrimage was done in secret, a symbolic pilgrimage and Kiaris Gihon are performed every year at this time by other Yazidi. During the 1960s, land acquisition by Kurds and Muslims, attacks by Turks, and punitive laws by the Islamic Iraq government restricted the movements and customs of the Yazidi. During that time, the Foundation stepped in and offered aid in a way of an advantageous clause that granted SCP planes unrestricted access to airports facilities in the area. Almost immediately, mysterious planes carrying pilgrims from east began landing at the local airport, and an elusive airport at the destination appeared as well. I apologize if I butchered the saying of any of those words. Need a drink of water. Item number 035, Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-035 is magnetically contained in a subterranean complex known as Site-22. Object size, spectral signature, and temperature are constantly monitored both on-site and remotely from Site-98. The primary containment chamber is lined with heat-conducting, radiation-resistant, nanopeak GFV polymer tiles and evacuated of any atmosphere. Heat from the object is radiated into the surrounding rock. Should enclosure integrity become compromised, the emergency system will generate low-power argon plasma shield. This is projected to provide a minimum of 4 hours for on-site engineers to effect necessary repairs before the object breaches containment. In the contingency that stellar evolution proceeds ahead of projections and a nova event appears imminent, or if containment failure is otherwise avoidable, any remaining project staff are authorized to initiate the Pitwak protocol. Description: 037 appears to be a star, approximately 5 centimeters, 2 inches in diameter, with luminosity about 1 times 10 to the power of 12 times our own sun, and a surface temperature of 5,000 Kelvin, determined by UBVRI analysis. The origin of SCP-037 is unknown. However, analysis suggests that it shares many properties in common with a typical main sequence star, other than in its anomalously small size. It is theorized to have entered the Earth's magnetosphere via the North Magnetic Pole. The object was discovered in 19redacted above the Beaufort Sea at approximately the North Magnetic Pole. Intense electromagnetic interference was reported by the Canadian Forces Station Alert, followed by an extremely bright object descending toward the ocean from the sky. The SCP's Guardian responded and discovered the object wavering in an erratic trajectory about 200 meters above the surface of the water. Once containment procedures were devised, it was transported to to Site 32 for study. Containment and transport of SCP-037 have been achieved by the use of powerful electromagnetics, to which the artifact aligns itself according to its own magnetic field. The primary challenge to containment thus far has been its powerful electromagnetic emissions, which are intense enough to be easily seen by the naked eye from high Earth orbit. Its current enclosure is located deep underground to prevent detection and to facilitate radiative cooling into the surrounding bedrock. In effect, the entire facility and the surrounding volume of the Earth's crust act as a massive heat sink. Addendum A. Over the past redacted years of study, the star has undergone a shift in emitted EM radiation, suggesting it is undergoing stellar evolution at a vastly accelerated rate. If standard stellar models hold up, this will soon result in an increase of radius by a factor of 100 to 300 times, and a concomitant increase in radiated energy. Emergency containment contingencies are being studied for that eventuality. Further progression of the star's life cycle will likely terminate in a stellar nova, with an estimated yield of redacted. Extrapolations predict this to occur in redacted. Research is underway for a method to arrest this development or transport 037 to a safe distance from the planet before it occurs. Let's check out the Pitwak protocol. 205 cancel. From Dr. Inanis. Subject SCP-037 Emergency Neutralization Research. Body: Sirs and Madams. The agents embedded with the U.S. DoD have managed to alter the project requirement for the NASA orbiter program. The vehicle will now be designed with enough space to accommodate SCP-037 and a temporary containment apparatus in order to facilitate transport off planet. However, I continue to have reservations. Modern rocket technology simply is not reliable enough for the needs of this project. A single mistake could lead to launch failure and subsequent loss of containment, possibly catastrophically. Even a successful launch would have to proceed perfectly, lest the result be visible to observatories and instruments, and possibly the naked eye around the world. There are numerous artifacts contained by the Foundation which might allow us to transport the 037 safely and cost-effectively to an adjacent dimension, universe, or esoteric domain. SCP Redacted in particular might prove especially convenient for this purpose, considering the outcomes of recent attempts to explore it and the difficulty of neutralization of 037. Might thus serve the added purposes of reducing or removing the threat posed by that anomaly as well. I implore you to reconsider the tweak proposal submitted in light of these concerns. End message. SCP-038. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-038 is to be watered twice per day via overhead mister. Should the mister break for any reasons, attendants should water 038 by hand until it is fixed. Lighting is provided by computer-controlled lighting array. Attendants watering 035 by hand, and maintenance personnel fixing mist or lightning should wear hazmat suits to prevent accidental cloning. Description: 038 was found on an abandoned farm in Redacted, New York in 19 Redacted. It was at first thought to be a common apple tree. However, upon closer inspection, it became apparent that 038 was growing things other than fruit, and in fact, other than apples, and in fact, other than fruit. 038 has the ability to clone any object that touches its bark. Objects begin growing almost instantaneously and reach maturity within a matter of minutes. A weight limit of 90.9 kilograms, 200 pounds per object has been previously recorded. Object that 038 has thus far cloned includes apples, oranges, watermelons, grape, eggplants, candy bars, snack foods, see addendum number 1, televisions, toasters, laptops, keys, see addendum number 2, chairs, wine, DVDs, CDs, see addendum number 3, cats, dogs, and people. Human and animal cloning through 038 is not recommended as they appear to age quickly. The majority of these clones live, on average, 2 weeks. After thorough examination of the deceased clones, it has been determined that they had begun to ferment before death. Object is currently held on Site 23, and there are currently no plans to move it. Addendum number 1. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel disclose the cloning of items from vending machines. See document 38-1. Addendum number 2. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel discontinue cloning of personal items. See document number 38-1. Addendum number 3. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel discontinue the cloning of movies and music. See document 38-1. Addendum number 4. Dr. Klein has requested personnel discontinue cloning cans of Miller, Budweiser, and Foster's. Dr. Klein has furthermore expressed customary disapproval of the quality of such cloned items. Document number 338-1. I would like to remind all personnel that SCP-038 is not, I repeat, not a toy. It should not be used for cloning car keys, movies, music, or items from the vending machines. If this behavior continues, I will be forced to limit access to 038. Document number 338-2. It has been noted that 038 is able to clone SCP-500. However, such pills only work 30% of the time, with the chance of successful healing dropping as the time since cloned increases. In 60% of the cases where infection is permanent, symptoms of infection remain, though further infection is neutralized. SCP-500 being a bottle of, I think it says on it, some sort of painkiller, but essentially it's a actual true cure-all that will cure any normal disease or anomalous disease. and like put you back to normal human state, no matter what. SCP-038 partial testing log. Select experiments only. For full test records and reports, contact affiliated researchers for authorization. Date 11/08 redacted. Intent confirmation of mass limit. Investigation into consequences of exceeding limit. Well, yeah, it's a perfect cure. It doesn't leave any negative effects or anything. It just is a pure cure. But they only have a very limited amount of them. Hence why they attempted to clone on the tree. Summary of test results. 400-pound steel ingot made contact with the outer bark of 038. My hugs aren't limited. I'd hug you all the time if I could. Chamber vacated as a precaution. Cloned ingot grew at a typical speed, but growth halted abruptly short of completion. Examination of the end of the aborted facility revealed a rough texture superficially resembling miniature scale tree bark. Item detached from 038 as typical was subsequently found to weigh 90.91 kilograms, or almost precisely 200 pounds. Date 11/08. Investigation into duplication of non-biological animate matter. Summary of test results. SCP-173, the good old peanut statue, deemed a suitable test subject because of its lack of verifiable life processes introduced into containment chamber by Class D personnel. Contact made with outer bark of 038 and 173 returned immediately to containment. 173 facsimile began development at typical speed, beginning at point of contact. As consistent with previous results, growth halted at 200-pound threshold, in this case terminating development after replication of the head, right arm, and partial to upper torso. Class D subject was ordered to break eye contact with clone. When test subject eventually blinked, no movement was observed in clone material. Extinguishing and re-establishment of containment chamber light supply revealed no apparent reaction from cloned material. Experiment concluded. During storage of cloned portion of 173, it was observed that the partial facsimile was in fact making violent gestures at a dramatically slower rate. Movement was shown to continue regardless of state observation. SCP-039. Object Class Euclid. All instances of 039 are to be contained in Site-77's Wilderness Observation Container 2B. At least 2 security personnel are to monitor the interior and exterior of 039's chamber and are to rotate every 6 hours. Staff chambers may not access 039's chamber without an accompanying escort from site security, and may only do so for research purposes or for the examination of the chamber for containment, sabotage, or contraband, which is to occur weekly. As of 9/18/2000 redacted, SCP-039-8 has become pregnant. Responsibility for its containment has been reassigned to personnel in the Veterinarian Observation Wing. Description: 039 consists of 23 instances of Nasalis laevatius, or proboscis monkey, who have been subject to radical anatomical changes. The eyes and mouths of 039 are absent, leaving the face bare save for the nose and its accompanying nasal passages. Instances of 039 possess acute auditory and tactile sense to compensate for the lack of eyes, relying mostly on physical contact with objects to perceive them and on loud nasal snorts as a sort of echolocation to help them navigate in their environment. Necropsies have also revealed that the digestive system to be absent. How the instances of 039 obtain nutrition, or alternately how they survive without it, is still a subject of research. Instances of 039 display signs of sapience, examples of which include communication via nasal swords, an understanding of spoken English, and a complex understanding of machinery. Adult instances have demonstrated the ability to operate mechanical tools and the ability to repair and manufacture various pieces of technology, such as disassembling and reassembling an internal combustion engine and efficiently wiring a small apartment room. Testing has shown that 039 appear to work more efficiently individually rather than in groups, as instances of 039 will often become distracted by one another. Occasionally, when working, instances of 039 will clutch their abdomens and emit distressed vocalizations. If food is located nearby, they will attempt to smear their faces with the substance. It is currently hypothesized that this indicates 039 is the result of manipulation of normal nasolavartis specimens, with documents recovered during containment supporting this hypothesis. See Addendum 039-A. 039 are capable of reproduction and gestation, not unlike Nasalis levitis. As of the time of this writing, 5 instances of SCP-039 have been born. 039 show a very close bond among their species, with newborns often being cared by for all capable adults. New instances are born with anatomical anomalies similar to the other instances of 039, but lack the knowledge of other instances. Parent instances will educate newborns on communication and basic skills until they reach the age of 6 months, at which point technological ability will be taught by other adult instances. 039 were recovered from an uninhabited research facility 50 kilometers from the nearby town of Redacted, Nevada. Documents recovered during containment placed the ownership of the facility under Redacted, a company funding research for the advancement of natural human ability. 20 instances of 039 had been apparently living in and maintaining the facility for an unknown period of time. Additional recovered documents indicate that a project was being conducted to augment human intelligence. This project appears to have been cancelled shortly before the company's collapse, with the assets sold to an unnamed group. Further research into Redacted and the groups that acquired its assets have revealed several other anomalous objects, including SCP-035-044. That's the video game one Melon requested the other day. And yeah, the proboscis monkeys aren't exactly pretty. Addendum 039-A. One additional instance of 039 was discovered during containment operations of SCP-1328. Agents are currently following up on any reports indicating the existence of further instances outside of containment. Several documents recovered during initial containment appear to notate the early prototyping stages of 039's development. Research has begun to develop a way to recreate the process that creates new 039 instances. However, the damage the notes had accumulated prior to containment has rendered many of them unreadable. Let's see how long these documents are. Okay. I'm gonna take a break there to grab some water. I'll be right back. Oh dear, there goes my thing. I'm back. Okay. These are the income. Hello, 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 hello. These are the incomplete notes that had acquired a lot of damage for the 039 development. Removal. They have become almost 100% more productive, not even counting the extra time due to reduced breaks and time off. With this success, we are considering removal of additional orifices, as long as the replacement or lack thereof do not reduce their output. Werner was looking at them as they worked today, and noticed some of them clutching their abdomens. It seems they experience phantom hunger pains, even if they no longer require food. Unless this starts interfering with productivity, we're going to continue as is. We tried removing their ocular organs, their eyes, and just having them work by memory. After a couple inconclusive trials, we actually got one up to the point where it scored almost as high as the control test. We've decided to move forward with this initiative, and if successful, apply it to all specimens. An update on this one. It seems the removal of sight has increased the tactile sensitivity of most of the specimens, and, remarkably, has brought the initial test subjects up to a level of productivity that exceeds the expected result. As such, we will apply the changes to all available specimens. Some of them didn't take to it, but they're still good for spare parts. In the meantime, we have put them in storage. After the success of the eyeball thing, Damien suggested that we should increase productivity by increasing auditory sensitivity. As long as they stayed in the factory, they'd be fine, since there isn't much here to overwhelm their ears. Testing starts in a week or so. A massive success. With the elimination of sight and the need for food, and with the amplification of hearing and touch, we've managed a total boost of 211% over our initial test subjects. Management has seen fit to give our division extra time to finish the project, and to think we were sold this project for a lark. Man, I feel like dancing on air. Edit. Small incident today. One of these specimens was out of his pen and grabbed a couple tools. When we put him back and sealed it up again, Alan says he'll take another look at the doors tomorrow. Item number SCP-040. Object class Anomalous Human. Containment class Active. Hazard rating Yellow. Standard containment policies. Two-person residential module. No amenity restrictions. Access to site, library, recreational facility, cafeteria, and public area. Supervised. Dietary restriction. Mild peanut allergy. Youth educational curriculum enrollment. Dr. Abernathy, Logan, and Izawa. Bi-weekly psychology review. Dr. Abernathy. Schedule B experimentation plan. Special containment procedures. SCP-040-1A, 1C, and 1J have been approved to remain in the containment chamber with the 040 for the purposes of the subject's mental well-being. Security Chief Special Order 392-5 redacted. All other entities modified by 040 during testing are to be disposed of after study, according to standard biological specimen clearance protocols as outlined in document CDP-BION-1. Hello again. Description. 040 is a human child, capable of at-will manipulation of the physical characteristics of living organisms. Modified organisms are collectively referred to as 040-1. Modifications are primarily cosmetic, ranging from simple color and pattern changes to more involved shifts in bodily form and structure. The creation of new specialized organs is possible. What appears to be the limit of 040's ability and currently has a 66% failure rate in testing. Modifications are limited to what would be physically possible, regardless of the probability of such a feature naturally arising. For example, while 040 can grant an organism wings that does not naturally possess them, they will not permit the creature to fly without meeting other physical requirements. 040-1 undergo behavior shifts as part of the modification process, acting with extreme loyalty to 040 regardless of prior association. Also, the subject's information: date of birth, year 2000, subject claimed to be 8 years old at date of containment. Place of birth unknown, date of containment 2008, height 111 centimeters, weight 20.7 kilograms, hair bright pink, eyes green, right, yellow, heterochromia, black sclera on the left. Blind in left eye, skin sensitive to burns and easily bruised. Hair is brittle and falls out easily. This is not a human child anymore. That is a 21-year-old person, if they were born in 2000. Holy heck, SCP's been going on for a long time. Zero 40's anomalous property requires significant focus and time to enact, and causes intense headaches and nausea when performed for more than a few minutes at a time. The effect becomes increasingly unreliable and inaccurate the smaller the modifications or more complex the changes are. 040 is incapable of altering microscopic organisms and has great difficulty in altering plant life. Dead organic matter may also be used, but must be used in conjunction with a living organism. Instances of 040-1 cannot be modified more than once, though it is currently unknown if this is a hard limit of 040's properties or a form of lack of mastery over them. 040's emotional state is within acceptable boundaries of an individual of its age group, accounting for the effects of prolonged containment and parental separation. Subject's intelligence is slightly above average for its age group. Behavior is generally cooperative. SCP-040 acclimatized quickly to containment and responded well to the initial orientation and socialization programs. 040 responds to the name 40 and does not appear to have any other given or chosen personal name. Yeah, They don't have anything on how it's a 21-year-old person now. Alright then. Recovery summary. Subject was taken into custody on 2008 as part of the Keys to Kingdom Christian Charter School for Gifted Youth in Redacted, Colorado. The raid's primary objective being the capture or execution of Redacted, a former CIA operative who had previously worked alongside Foundation intermediaries as part of Project Black Book, Project Similidon, and Project Stargate from 1967 to 1971 was successful. Redacted was terminated on site and disposed of without incident. Of the 15 children recovered from the facility, 040 was the only one to demonstrate anomalous properties. The others were administered amnestics and placed in Foundation-observed foster care. Interviews with staff at the school revealed they were unaware of Redacted's prior history or any connection with Foundation operations. They were administered amnestics and put under a 6-month communications monitor. No relapses were recorded. See Operation Tatzelwurm after action report for complete event record. I sure you mean you were better than human, right, Eleanor? Addendum 01. 040 is currently allowed custody of the following 040-1 instances. 1A. Symbiotic organism capable of changing size, shape, color, and texture in reaction to its environment. Subject serves as outer clothing similar to a jacket or sweater and absorbs nutrients from 040's bloodstream. Subject was recovered alongside 040, and genetic testing reveals that the subject shares the majority of its genetic makeup with a common house cat. 1C. Spherical organism capable of flight by means of rubbery bladders and filled with lighter than air gas mixture. Entity has 11 limbs terminating in opposable digits and a completely complex respiratory system capable of replicating a wide variety of musical patterns. 1J. Quadrupedal organism covered in a thick coat of pink and blue fur. Entity has no eyes, a broad mouth with blunt teeth, and is capable of climbing up vertical surfaces, occasionally used by 040 as a means of transport. Addendum 02. Following an interview excerpt is dated 2008, shortly after 040's initial containment and orientation sessions. Dr. Abernathy. Good morning, 40. 040. Good morning, Miss Abernathy. Sounds like you're getting over your cold. I'm glad. Can I ask you a few questions before we start today's lesson? Yeah. Dr. Abernathy, can you tell me about your parents? Mr. Green said that I don't have any. Can you tell me about Mr. Green, then? He was nice, but he wasn't very good at talking. He would always talk a little like this, but he wasn't there a lot of the time. Most of the time it was the nurses looking after us. And what did they do for you? They'd play games with us and teach us things, and sometimes they would make us wear these dumb helmets and sit quietly for a long time. Sometimes they'd put a movie on for us, if we behaved, but if we were bad, they'd lock us in our rooms. Can you tell me anything else? They always served us peas for dinner, and I hate peas, so I gave mine to 5, because she liked peas, but I think green beans are better. Addendum redacted 2009. SCP-040 successfully reanimated a deceased human body during testing, using 3 specimens of brown rat, Rhetus noversius, as the required living component. Resultant subject retained no memories of previous life and was judged to be the approximate mental capacity of a human toddler. 040 was highly distressed by the event and refused further testing for the next 3 weeks. Footnotes. Investigation during Operation Tatzelworm confirmed that Redacted had been operating under the name Henry Grin since at least 1982. Okay. Another drink of water. Item number SCP-041. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. 041 is to be hospitalized at Bioresearch Area 12. Though not Keter Class, should 041's abilities ever propagate beyond a reasonably containable area, the risk of SCP-sensitive information being broadcast to the public remains too great a risk and warrants area-level isolation away from the general populace. SCP personnel wanting to keep their thoughts private are advised to remain outside a 15-meter radius from 041 beyond the designated red circle on the floor. It is beneficial to the mental health of 041 to have a sitter in the room who watches television and concentrates on its programming. This allows 041 to effectively watch television through the mind of someone else. The optimal sitter is a Class D personnel with below-average intelligence whose mind does not wander or have more than one train of thought at a time. Though not mind control, 041 has used its abilities to coerce sitters into watching programming that they themselves did not enjoy. 041's taste varied between gore slasher films, having expressed interest in snuff and children's programming. Description: 041 is a human male suffering from irreversible damage to his central nervous system, which is believed to have been caused by an infection of a rare strain of bacterial meningitis. Although antibiotics were successful in clearing the infection, the membrane surrounding his brain and spinal cord had reacted to the infection by severing many neurons connecting the central nervous system to the rest of the body. 041 must rely on a respirator to sustain his breathing, a biventricular pacemaker to keep his heart beating, and a nasogastric tube to provide nutrition. Visually, 041 appears to be in a persistent vegetative state. However, observers in the presence of 041 begin to realize that their thoughts, along with everyone else's in about a 10-meter radius from SCP-041, are broadcast in a semi-audible fashion. Aside from being the source, 041 is also capable of broadcasting his own thoughts to those present. Anyone forming an idea using words will have those thoughts unwillingly transmitted to others in this range as mind-audible speech, which cannot be recorded by any known equipment. Correction, see Addendum 1. Mind-audible speech may be heard using whatever voice a subject chooses to think with. Most typically, this is the subject's normal voice. See Document 01. Visual thought and images are broadcast as well, but are not received as readily. Images are most effectively transmitted when both the sender and receiver have their eyes closed. The sender concentrates on a single object without environment or background, and the receiver's mind is clear of conscious thoughts. Communication between subjects using visual images, particularly those not rooted in memory but thoughts, not rooted in memory but in imagination, is usually difficult. The sender typically has trouble conceiving a highly detailed mental object from a single point of view, while the receiver will often try to fill in the gaps of missing information, ultimately resulting in the receiver seeing a different image from what was sent. The most difficult imagery to be successfully broadcast appears to be a person's face, particularly if the image of one is a person in motion. Although able to transmit his thoughts to others, 041 is not talkative. Attempts to persuade 041 to divulge any information about his abilities have so far been fruitless. 041 is typically silent and normally will not respond to any direct attempts at communication. However, 041 appears to have a sense of humor, as he interjects occasional comments into conversations of others. Addendum 01. While Researcher Redacted was taking voice notes using a digital audio recorder, a fellow researcher was changing the television in 041's room. While the television was on a channel of static, disembodied voices could be heard filtered through the white noise. Attempts to record mind-audible speech with white noise generators and sound-reducing equipment have begun to yield modest results, though most audio is garbled, and recorded sounds may or may not be voices, and are widely left toward individual interpretations. Addendum 02. It has come to my attention that several personnel have used 041 as an ad hoc she likes me not detector. This is one of the most appalling things I've ever heard. Are we safeguarding potentially world-destroying objects, or are we in the third grade? Dr. Klein. Document 01, researcher's quote. You know, the first time I was in the room with Kent and 41, I kept hearing this singing. It was this little girl's voice singing some kid's song. It wasn't the TV, and it definitely wasn't the radio. It was in our heads, you know. So I think, if I was stuck in bed, without anything else to do, I'd sing like a little girl too. And then this voice comes into my head. Hey, it's not me. I don't know that tune. And then old Kent looks at me, gone all white in the face. You know? This event occurred after SCP-239 was placed in a chemically induced coma. Any connection between the two SCPs is currently unconfirmed. If I remember correctly, SCP-239 is an extremely powerful reality bender that is also a small girl, and very young, very innocent. Oh, it's a horse. Item number SCP-042. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-042 is currently housed within Minimum Security Paddock 12 at Bioresearch Area 32. Despite 042's seeming disinclination to attempt to escape at this point, security measures must still be maintained at all times. Previous attempts to maintain the health of the ground cover in Paddock 12 have failed to date. Despite regular watering, 042's presence leaves the ground parched wherever it treads, and as it has not been determined what happens to added water, the program of watering has been discontinued as unnecessary and potentially hazardous to the local water table. Monitoring of local well levels and sampling of areas' water is to be carried out on a weekly basis. Shush, Salinor. It's not for his horse. Okay. Personnel interacting with 042, including any handlers, medical personnel, feeders, and custodial staff, must submit to a thorough research, including data redacted, prior to entrance into Paddock 12. Any personnel attempting to smuggle a weapon or object that can be used as a weapon is to be immediately data redacted. Personnel that are to undergo psychological screening once per week after interacting in any way with 042. Medical personnel examining the wounds on 042's back are to be closely monitored at all times lest they attempt to euthanize 042. I'll tell you shush if you make garbage puns like that. Because that's part of the fun, isn't it? Description. 042 is an animal believed to be a member of genus Equus. The coat is white in color with some small brown spotting. It stands 183 centimeters, 18 hands to its withers and weighs 710 kilograms. Its weight has dropped significantly since it has been in Foundation custody due to both atrophy from lack of physical activity and refusal to eat. The liquid nutrient diet forcibly administered keeps it alive, but it remains weak, emaciated and weak. 042 exhibits two large bone protrusions from its back, linked to powerful musculature, now atrophied through its back. These bones end at 37 centimeters from the surface of its back and protrude from the skin at open, ragged wounds. To date, no healing has been observed outside of these wounds, though some clotting must take place for 042 to have not bled out. We both know you're just being a brat. Who needs to be bullied? 042 exhibits a listless demeanor and has been unresponsive to any attempt by skilled handlers to incite activity. If allowed to do so, 042 will lay down on the ground immobile, not moving to eat, drink, or relieve itself. Pain response conditioning has proved somewhat effective in getting 042 to rise so that it can be cleaned, but eventually it will attempt to lay down again no matter the strength of shock administered, even to the point of completely losing consciousness. Researchers are divided as to 042's level intelligence. While some believe it is simply an animal and no smarter than any others of its genus, others believe may in fact be sapient. It has been shown to make eye contact with persons entering Paddock 12, most of whom describe its looks as pleading. 042 has been involved in accidents on multiple occasions where it has been injured on pieces of equipment in its enclosure, with those arguing for intelligence believe it to have been intentionally caused by 042. A request submitted by Dr. Redacted to transfer 042 to Bioresearch Area 4 on Redacted in 19 Redacted, which was approved by O5 member number 5. Dr. Redacted altered transportation documents to indicate 042 was to be airlifted rather than transported by armed convoy. During transit, Dr. Redacted overpowered the pilot of the transport aircraft and took the controls, plunging the craft into a steep dive. Passengers and cargo experienced nearly a minute of weightlessness before the security personnel gained control of the aircraft and leveled off. As Dr. Redacted was being bound and the plane landed, 042 broke free of containment and kicked 2 security personnel to death in the cargo area. Cargo bay security footage shows that after this point, 042 approached Dr. Redacted, touches its muzzle to his face. Dr. Redacted exhibited signs of euphoria while contact maintained, but when additional security personnel subdued 042's tranquilizer darts and contact was broken, he collapsed into a catatonic state from which he did not recover. After hearing concerning his actions, Dr. Redacted was euthanized while under Foundation medical care on Redacted 19 Redacted. Heckin' eyes are burning some. We'll get 2 more SCPs done, unless the next one's real short too. Item number SCP-043. Object class, safe. Special containment procedures. 043 requires no special containment, although it is recommended that 043 not be used for purposes other than testing. A turntable is to be maintained in the same room for testing. Description: 043 appears to be a vinyl copy of the White Album by the Beatles. However, upon inspection, the record has no grooves. In spite of this, the record will play from start to finish, regardless of the starting position of the needle. With the 29th track reached, instead of playing Revolution 9, the disc stops spinning, and faint breathing can be heard. Occasionally, the entity responsible for breathing will speak in a male voice. The entity will respond to questions and shows a profound encyclopedic knowledge of the music industry, musical theory, and obscure trivia about many bands and artists. However, the entity refuses to answer questions regarding the Beatles or its own personal details. Inside the jacket, a small handwritten note was found, reading, "Limited edition, 1 out of 1. Thanks, John. XXX. Yeah. I'm pretty tired. Item number SCP-044. Object class, safe. Special containment procedures. A constant stream of hydrogen ions, unbound oxygen atoms, and other trace-free radicals emanate from the muzzle of 044 at all times. Because of this, the docking stations of 044 are to be well ventilated to keep dangerous gases and moisture from accumulating. Muzzle coverings are to be fitted at all times to keep birds and small animals from investigating the large, open barrel of 044. Addendum Redacted 2000. As 044 has not been involved in any significant incidents In the redacted years it has been held by the Foundation, 044 has been reclassified as safe. Must I really define significant incidents? If containment procedures and standard safety protocol are followed, 44 is no more dangerous than any other big redacted gun. No, the bear incident does not count. 05 redacted. Description: 044 is a howitzer, secretly manufactured in the late stages of the Second World War by Krupp engineers, personally supervised by Albert Speer, German Minister of Armaments and War Production under Adolf Hitler. 041 is unique not only because of its size, 251,000 kilograms, or 251 metric tons, but also because it fires unconventional artillery using an atypical delivery method. Rather than having a breech for loading shells, the rear of the barrel is configured into a massive air compressor chamber. Any object or pile of object that fits may be loaded into 044's muzzle to be used as ammunition. Because of its size, 044 must remain rail-mounted and requires 2 freight locomotives to move. Researchers believe that 044 weakens molecular and atomic bonds into any material loaded into its muzzle. However, the method by which 044 affects molecular bonds is not known, due primarily to the mechanisms appear useless. Due to the numerous complex mechanisms that compose the housing and workings of 044. In fact, some mechanisms appear useless and seem to do nothing other than spin or make noise, even when 044 is not supplied with power. Both equipment and personnel have been lost while exploring the inside of 044's barrel. When 044 is fired, all matter within its barrel is ejected at a high rate of speed as a glowing red slug, proportional in size to the amount of mass loaded into the muzzle. Upon striking a solid object or the ground, the slug explodes, yielding proportional to the mouth mass of the original ammunition at no less than a redacted % mass to energy conversion rate. The yield will also increase somewhat the longer the slug remains in the barrel. The greatest known yield was achieved when the administrator's 8,900 kilogram, 19,500 pound personal diesel pickup truck was loaded in its entirety into the nozzle of SCP-044 and fired in the pictured experiment. That's a nuclear explosion right there. It's a big boy explosion. Okay, we'll finish this one and I'll finish up and go take a nap. Item number 045, object class safe. SCP-045 is to be kept affixed in an examination platform in a hemispherical chamber measuring 5 meters in radius at Oceanic Research Station 12, located at redacted on the seafloor of the Pacific Ocean. The chamber is to be kept filled with gaseous neon at equilibrium pressure with the surrounding environment. The chamber is sealed from habitable portions of the station by 25 meters of local seawater, and all interactions with 045 are to be performed via telepresence or robotic means. The bindings that attach 045 to its platform are fitted with quick-release latches, which are to be released when necessary to prevent a containment breach. Given the seismic activity associated with 045, the containment chamber is damaged or breached by seismological activity. 045 should be recovered by remotely controlled drone vehicles and kept at least 10 meters from human inhabited spaces until such time as repairs can be completed to the optimal containment chamber. Description: 045 is an icosahedron composed of ice XII, heavily occuled with planar fractures in a regular complex pattern. 045 has an average radius of 1.7 meters and a density of 2.6 grams per centimeter cubed, which is approximately twice that of non-anomalous ice XII. SCP-045 remains in a stable state at temperatures ranging from 0.074 to 500 Kelvin, approximately negative 273 Celsius to 227 Celsius, and pressures ranging from 0.4 Pascal to 3 gigapascal, approximately 3.95 microatmospheres to 29,600 atmospheres. Although it is possible to melt or vaporize 045 at temperatures and pressures outside of these ranges, the H2O involved is attracted to itself by unknown means and will remain very, very close. Proximity unless separated. Within very close proximity unless forcibly separated. The water will refreeze as soon as conditions return to a position inside 045's stable range, and any sub-portions kept separate prior to refreezing will freeze into smaller iconosahedrons identical in form to properties to the total amount of 045. This is because you asked to be Poland, and as good speech therapy is over. Hope it went well. Based on available evidence, it is currently believed that 045 is a three-dimensional projection of a hyper-iconosahedron. Research is ongoing to determine how 045 is able to maintain a stable, lower-dimensional projection, and whether this can be adapted for use when interacting with other dimensionally anomalous SCP items. At predictable intervals ranging from 2 weeks to 3 months, SCP-045 will spontaneously rotate around multiple axes simultaneously for a period no longer than 73 seconds. During this period, a series of small seismic events less than 2.5 on the Richter scale will occur in the immediate area of 0.045. If 045 is prevented from rotating, seismic events increase in size logarithmically to a maximum of 5.3 on the Richter scale. Following the end of the rotation period, the radius of 45's effect will temporarily double for the same amount of time that it rotated. When gaseous nitrogen or argon come within 3.7 meters of any portion of 045, they are replaced by different compounds. Nitrogen-2 is replaced by liquid water at a conversion rate of 1 mole into 1.98 mole H2O. And AR is replaced by crystalline NaCl table salt at a conversion of 1 mole AR to 4.26 mole NaCl. SCP-45 was discovered in 1972 when a Foundation submarine scouting the Pacific Abyssal Plain for suitable locations for undersea bases was diverted to investigate the epicenter of a series of unexpectedly localized strong tremors. 045 was found lodged in a crevice, which had apparently prevented it from rotating. When removed from the crevice, it was brought towards the vessel for further study, and upon coming within range of the interior atmosphere, exhibited its anomalous effects. This resulted in a catastrophic breach of the internal containment protocols, and the loss of 12 crew members prior to 045 being released and the submarine moving out of range. Addendum. Following several years of testing, it was accidentally discovered that 045 also converts hydrogen gas into a random mixture of simple amino acids at rate of 1 mole of hydrogen to 0.04 mole of amino acids. However, this conversion only occurs when the gas is diffused in saline water, such as that produced by 045. Analysis of seafloor surrounding the location where 045 was discovered has revealed a large community of microfauna and microflora that is approximately 3 times as diverse as would be expected, given the geography and location. All have biochemistry wherein the amino acids produced by 045 are statistically abundant as compared to microbiota from similar geologic regions. Additionally, all thrive when immersed in pure salt water devoid of other organic materials. Footnote 1 is the ice XII, a metastable form of water ice that is typically formed only within a narrow range of very high pressures and temperatures. 2. A regular polyhedron that exists in 4 spatial dimensions and has 600 regular tetrahedral facets. 3. Nitrogen comprises approximately 78% of Earth's atmosphere by volume. Argon composes approximately 0.93% of the Earth's atmosphere by volume. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up there. I'm tripping over my words way too much. So, thanks for watching, and if you have any requests, just whisper them to me or DM me in Discord. And, yeah, have a lovely day. Where's the heck?